how do you tell the story of the resurrection? It's a single event and then a revelation to the people in the upper room.
Well, it's more than a single event, it's an amazing event, and to underpin that with the things that around it is really the story, to sort of enlighten what that means.
Imagine standing at the edge of history where the world believes it knows the story, but the truth has been hiding in plain sight for millennia. What if everything you thought you understood was only half the picture? What if the most pivotal events, the ones that shaped civilizations, contained secrets no historian has fully uncovered? Today, we're diving into a mystery buried in silence, evidence preserved against the tide of time, and revelations that could rewrite what you know about history, faith, and human ambition. This isn't speculation. This isn't a legend. This is the story that emerges when hidden truths are finally brought into the light, and when centuries of accepted knowledge are forced to confront facts that refuse to be ignored. The question is simple. Are we ready to face what history has been keeping from us? Because once you see what's really there, nothing will ever feel the same. The final breath that broke the world. It's approximately 3 in the afternoon on a Friday that will echo through eternity. The sun still hangs in the sky, but the world feels fundamentally wrong. The air itself seems to hold its breath, as if creation knows what's about to happen cannot be undone. On a barren, skull-shaped hill outside Jerusalem, Golgotha, 3 crosses pierce the darkening sky. On the center cross hangs Jesus of Nazareth.
It is one of the 2 places that is thought to be the final resting place of Jesus of Nazareth.
To grasp what comes next, you must understand the absolute brutality already endured. This isn't Hollywood spectacle. His back has been shredded by a Roman scourge, a whip embedded with bone and metal, tearing flesh and muscle with 39 lashes. His hands and feet are pierced through clusters of nerves that make each movement agony. Crucifixion is slow death by asphyxiation. To breathe, he must push up on nails in his feet, each effort sending white-hot pain through his body. 6 hours have passed, hours of pain, exhaustion, and shock. Yet through it all, he has forgiven those dying beside him, made provision for his mother, and maintained a clarity of mind that should be impossible. Now, as afternoon wanes, something reaches its climax. Jesus lifts his head, and his voice, rasping and weak, carries across Golgotha. "Father,
forgive them, Father. They know not what they do."
"Into your hands I commit my spirit." 7 words. Then he breathes his last. The world reacts. The ground doesn't tremble, it convulses. Massive rocks split with thunderous sound. In Jerusalem, buildings sway. Panic erupts in the streets. Inside the temple, the holiest place in Judaism, the veil separating humanity from God, 60 feet high, 4 inches thick, is torn from top to bottom. Not by human hands, but by a force beyond comprehension. Centuries of ritual, centuries of separation, are undone in a single moment. Priests collapse, overwhelmed. Even Pontius Pilate, miles away, reportedly feels a wave of dread, as if invisible judgment has passed over the city. At the base of the cross, a Roman centurion, a hardened soldier accustomed to death, watches in disbelief. Witnessing this, he confesses, "Truly, this was the Son of God." Not a theory, not a calculation, but a confession born of awe, terror, and the undeniable reality of what has transpired. As the sun sets, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus emerge from the shadows. Members of the Sanhedrin, secret followers of Jesus, they request the body for burial. Permission is granted. They return to Golgotha and with reverent care remove the nails. Each scrape of metal echoes through the gathering darkness. Mary, his mother, watches, grief coursing through her, yet somehow remaining unshaken.
And it's, of course, the Blessed Mother, Mary, the Mother of God.
She has seen her son's life from cradle to ministry, and now she witnesses the devastation of his death. The body is carried to a nearby garden, to a tomb carved from solid limestone, unused and waiting. The women who followed him, including Mary Magdalene, wash the body and anoint it with expensive oils, myrrh, spikenard, an act of love, devotion, and final service. Wrapped in linen, the body is placed on a stone shelf. Then, a massive circular stone is rolled across the entrance, sealing it. To all human eyes, the story is over. A prophet, a good man, maybe the Messiah to some, is dead. His followers are scattered. His movement appears finished. But the story isn't over. Even as the tomb is sealed, unease grips the religious authorities and Roman officials. Jesus had claimed he would rise after 3 days. Impossible, absurd, yet unsettling. Pilate, cautious, orders 16 elite Roman soldiers to guard the tomb. Torches flare. Weapons are ready. Every human angle is secured. The tomb is sealed, marked with a Roman seal. Breaking it is a crime punishable by death. To any observer, nothing can happen here. Jesus is dead, buried, and gone. And yet, beneath the stone, beyond sight, beyond control, beyond human power, something stirs. A force already at work, a reality-altering power preparing to shatter every assumption, break every rule, and redefine existence itself. This is not the end, not by any measure. What has begun inside that tomb will ripple through time and space, through hearts and empires, through life and death itself, and all the world will one day reckon with it. The silent day, when everything changed. Saturday arrives. In Jerusalem, it's the Sabbath, the day of rest, the day when even basic work is forbidden by Jewish law.
He took the Sabbath day rest. The reason God took that Sabbath day rest on the 7th day.
The city is quiet. Markets are closed. The streets are nearly empty. For Jesus' followers, hiding in locked rooms throughout the city, it is the longest day of their lives. Everything they believed, everything they sacrificed for, every promise they clung to, lies dead in a tomb. Peter, who swore he would die before denying Jesus, is drowning in shame after denying him 3 times in a single night. The other disciples are paralyzed by fear, certain that the authorities will come for them next. Their Messiah, their hope, their future, everything is buried under a stone they can't move and wouldn't dare approach anyway. The world sees only death. The disciples feel only despair. Saturday passes without a single recorded miracle. No sermons, no healings, no signs in the sky. To everyone observing, God appears utterly silent. But ancient Christian tradition, echoed in the Apostles' Creed that has been recited by believers for nearly 2,000 years, insists that Saturday was not empty. It was hidden. While Jesus' body lay motionless in the tomb, his spirit was not confined by stone, by death, or by time itself. According to this tradition, Jesus descended into hell. Now, this phrase has been massively misunderstood throughout history. Many people hear hell and picture the fire and brimstone eternal punishment described in later Christian theology. But that's not what the ancient texts are describing. In ancient Jewish belief, the realm of the dead was known as Sheol. It wasn't a place of active torture. It was a shadowy realm of waiting, a holding place for all. Souls who had died before redemption could be completed. According to this understanding, even the righteous were there. Adam and Eve, who walked with God in Eden before the fall. Noah, who obeyed God and saved humanity from the flood. Abraham, called the father of faith.
Abraham. And so this is the father of our faith. He gets a lot of ink.
Moses, who spoke with God face to face and led the Exodus. David, the shepherd king after God's own heart. Every prophet, every faithful person who died before this moment remained in Sheol, separated from the full presence of God, waiting for something they hoped for but couldn't fully see. Catherine Emmerich's mystical visions provide a vivid, almost cinematic description of what she witnessed spiritually during this time. In her account, Jesus' descent is not passive or defeated. He doesn't slink into the darkness as a victim. He enters as a conquering king, with authority that makes the foundations of death itself tremble. When Jesus enters Sheol, light pierces the darkness for the first time since the fall of humanity. This isn't a gentle, gradual dawn. It's a radiant, overwhelming force that shatters centuries of shadow in an instant. Imagine being in complete darkness for your entire existence, and suddenly, without warning, blinding light explodes into every corner. The righteous souls, who have been waiting in this shadowy place for generations, some for thousands of years, feel it immediately. The change is instantaneous and undeniable. Adam, carrying the unbearable weight of being the one through whom sin entered the human experience, suddenly feels that weight lifting. For the first time since the Garden of Eden, since he and Eve ate the forbidden fruit and shame entered human consciousness, he experienced release. The crushing guilt, the knowledge that every death, every tear, every moment of suffering in human history can be traced back to his choice, begins to dissolve. Abraham, who trusted God's promise that through him all nations would be blessed, who was willing to sacrifice his own son in faith, now sees the fulfillment standing before him. Moses, who carried the law, who spent 40 years in the wilderness leading a stubborn people toward a promised land he never entered, no longer needs the stone tablets because the Word himself stands alive before him. David, the poet king who wrote, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me," discovers that his poetry was prophecy. The valley has been walked through by God himself, when light invaded the kingdom of darkness. But the righteous aren't alone in Sheol. According to Emmerich's visions and ancient tradition, dark forces also dwell there. These are entities that have fed on fear, death, and separation for millennia. They have claimed authority over the dead, ruling this realm through lies and terror. When light begins to invade their domain, they attempt to resist. They whisper their ancient lies, trying to maintain their grip on the souls they've held captive. They assert old claims, arguing rights and rules and boundaries that have existed since the fall. But here's the striking thing about Emmerich's account. There is no epic battle. There's no clash of swords, no violent confrontation, no warfare in any conventional sense. Jesus doesn't destroy the forces of darkness through superior strength or violence. He simply is. His presence is enough. The truth of who he is, standing in the realm of lies, causes those lies to simply dissolve. It's like watching fog evaporate under direct sunlight. The darkness doesn't fight the light and lose. It simply ceases to exist in the light's presence. The righteous souls begin to awaken, not dragged or forced, but drawn by recognition. They see the one they've been waiting for and they rise. It's described as an exodus, a liberation that mirrors the exodus from Egypt that Moses led centuries before, but infinitely greater in scope. This is history itself being freed from captivity. This is the very nature of death being undermined from the inside. Jesus leads them out in a procession that would be impossible to adequately capture in human art or film, though many have tried. The gates of heaven, closed since the fall of Adam and Eve, sealed since the moment humanity chose knowledge of evil over intimacy with God, swing open. The souls of the righteous enter the full presence of God for the first time. This moment is rarely depicted in Christian art. It doesn't have the immediate emotional impact of the crucifixion or the triumphant joy of the resurrection morning. It's hidden, invisible to human eyes, occurring in a realm we can't directly observe. Yet from a theological perspective, this may be one of the most consequential acts in all of salvation history. Think about what's actually happening. Every promise God ever made is being fulfilled in this moment. Every prophecy is being realized. The separation between creator and creation, the fundamental wound that has defined human existence since the garden, is being healed from the inside out. While the world mourns a dead Messiah, while disciples hide in fear, while Roman soldiers guard an occupied tomb, the Messiah is doing something far more significant than anyone imagined. He's not just coming back from death, he's dismantling death's very claim to authority. He's liberating every righteous soul who ever lived and died in faith. He's reclaiming creation from the inside, addressing the root problem of human existence at its deepest level. Saturday ends. The tomb remains sealed. The guards maintain their watch. The disciples remain in hiding. But in the unseen realms, the war has already been won. Death itself has been invaded, conquered, and left powerless. The stage is set for the world to finally see what has already been accomplished in the darkness. The morning death surrendered its power. Sunday morning arrives, but Jerusalem is still cloaked in darkness. At the tomb, 16 elite Roman soldiers maintain their vigil.
The tomb of Christ. Millions of Christians revere this shrine as the final earthly resting place of Jesus.
Professionals unaware that they are about to witness something no empire, no army, and no human power can explain. Behind the massive stone, in the darkness of the sealed tomb, the lifeless body of Jesus begins to change. According to Catherine Emmerich's visions, what happens next defies every law of nature. Gravity loses its authority. The body rises, not by external force, but transformed from within. Wounds that bled for hours now glow with light, emanating from the body itself. The linen burial cloths collapse, intact, as though he simply passed through them. Later, the disciples will find these grave clothes lying undisturbed, a silent witness to the impossible. Light erupts from within the tomb, visible through cracks around the sealed stone. It is not fire, nor lightning, but something alive, something ineffably divine. The soldiers instinctively recoil. Their training fails them. Then the earth trembles again, not violently as it did on Friday, but with the tremor of restoration. The massive stone rolls aside deliberately, as if an invisible hand had no need for effort. Angels appear, their radiance blinding, their presence overwhelming human comprehension. Even Rome's most hardened soldiers collapse, paralyzed by awe and terror. Then Jesus steps out, not in haste, not in spectacle, but in victory. The man who died is now transformed, glorified. His wounds are visible, yet the body that was broken is now radiant, alive, and transfigured. Creation itself responds. Plants seem to bow, the earth stills, and even the air vibrates with recognition of its creator. Death, which has long held dominion over humanity, retreats like a defeated enemy. This resurrection is not temporary, not symbolic. It is the ultimate conquest of death, the dawn of new creation. The first witness is Mary Magdalene. In first-century Jewish culture, women were not considered reliable witnesses, yet God chooses her to witness history's most decisive moment. She comes before sunrise, carrying spices to complete the hurried burial. Expecting a sealed tomb and a dead teacher, she finds chaos. The stone is rolled away, the guards are gone, the tomb is open. Inside, the grave clothes lie undisturbed, but Jesus is gone. She weeps in grief and confusion, assuming someone has stolen his body. Then a voice, "Woman, why are you crying?" Mistaking him for a gardener, she pleads for answers. Then he speaks her name, Mary. In that instant, recognition floods her. "Rabboni!" she cries, "Teacher." She reaches for him, but Jesus restrains her gently. "Do not cling to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Go to my brothers and tell them I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary runs to the disciples, bursting through doors with news that seems impossible. "I have seen the Lord." Over the next 40 days, Jesus appears repeatedly to his followers, proving he is alive. These are not visions or illusions. He eats, speaks, allows himself to be touched, yet appears and disappears at will, transcending ordinary human limitations. On the road to Emmaus, two disciples discuss recent events when a stranger joins them. He explains the scriptures and the necessity of the Messiah's suffering. At dinner, he breaks bread in a familiar way. They recognize him, and he vanishes. "Weren't our hearts burning within us?" they marvel. That same evening, behind locked doors, Jesus appears to the disciples. Terrified, they think they see a ghost. He shows them his hands and side, the wounds still visible, and eats broiled fish to prove his physical reality. Joy overwhelms them. Thomas, absent that evening, refuses to believe until a week later when Jesus appears again. "Put your finger here, see my hands. Reach into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas responds, kneeling, "My Lord and my God." Jesus replies, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen, and yet have believed." Jesus appears to over 500 people at once, to Peter, to James, and to countless others. On a mountain in Galilee, he gives his final instructions. "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." Then, in full view of his followers, he ascends. Lifted until a cloud hides him from sight, two angels speak to the disciples. "Why do you stand here looking into the sky? This same Jesus, who has been taken from you into heaven, will come back in the same way you have seen him go. The resurrection is complete. Death is defeated. The tomb is empty. Fear is replaced with courage, despair with hope, and disbelief with faith. The impossible has happened. Reality itself has been rewritten, and the movement that began in a garden tomb will reshape history forever. The fire that launched a revolution. The disciples returned to Jerusalem, not in fear this time, but in anticipation.
This week on a special edition of Jerusalem Dateline, Israel comes to a standstill on the holiest day of the year.
Jesus told them to wait for what the Father promised, a gift that would change everything once again. 10 days after the Ascension, during the Jewish Feast of Pentecost, when Jerusalem is packed with pilgrims from across the known world, the promised gift arrives. The disciples are gathered in one place when suddenly a sound like a violent wind fills the house. Tongues of fire appear and rest on each person. They're filled with the Holy Spirit and begin speaking in languages they never learned. The crowd outside hears the commotion and gathers, amazed because each person hears the disciples speaking in their own native language, no matter where they're from. Peter, the same man who denied Jesus 3 times out of fear, stands up and addresses the crowd with fearless clarity. He explains what's happening, quotes ancient prophecies, and declares boldly that Jesus, whom they crucified, has been raised from the dead and exalted to the right hand of God. 3,000 people believe that day and are baptized. The church is born, not as an organization, but as a movement of ordinary people transformed by an extraordinary truth and empowered by the Spirit of the risen Christ. What began in a tomb has now moved into the streets. What started with a handful of terrified disciples in hiding has become an unstoppable force that will eventually reach every corner of the globe. And so the tomb stands empty, not as a relic of the past, but as a challenge to the present. What if everything you thought was certain about life, death, and the universe is only a fraction of the truth? What does it mean for history, for humanity, and for the very fabric of reality that death itself could be overturned? The evidence, the testimonies, the seismic ripple of events that followed, none of it can be ignored. And yet, the story is far from finished. Every question we ask, every doubt we wrestle with, every life transformed in the shadow of that empty tomb, continues the investigation that began 2,000 years ago. So the question remains, if the resurrection is real, then what else about this world, about existence, about the cosmos, might we still be missing? The answers are waiting, but only for those willing to look beyond what seems possible.